Hey, aloha, and good morning. Welcome to office hours for Korean natural farming for October 30th, 2022. It's Halloween tomorrow, guys. What are you going to dress up as? A natural farmer, huh? Wow, again? Yep. Yeah. So, let's see here. Before we get into it, before we dive in, that seems to be the YouTube thing to say. Let's get some higher wisdom here and see what's going on. So today is one of my favorites, and it's peace. Number 11, which is Earth over Heaven, and it says, "Heaven exists on Earth for those who maintain correct thoughts and actions." This hexagram signifies a time similar to spring. Oh, it's kind of funny because it's fall. There's a strong flow of energy and harmony and prosperity. There's a strong flow of energy, and harmony and prosperity are the reward of those who correctly balance their higher and lower natures. It is by remaining aware of our inferior self while ensuring the superior self governs our conduct that we arrive at a state of peace. See yourself as a young tree now. The ground around you is fertile. Sun and water and wind are plentiful. By maintaining your focus on moving upwards towards the light, clarity, and purity, you can reach great heights. If you become entangled in inferior things, you will not enjoy the full benefit of this gracious hour. Stay balanced, innocent, and correct, and good fortune is assured. Isn't that nice and short? It's funny. I think this is the shortest entry in the I Ching is peace. Pretty sure. And it's kind of funny because it ties back into what we talked about last week, which was just that, or maybe it's 2 weeks ago now, but going through Master Cho's presentation where he's talking about, sunlight, water, and earth, and that's really what you need. Those are the fertilizers, those are the things, and then you put the microorganisms in there, and it pretty much creates a perfect natural system. So big thanks to Master Cho here. Always behind me, looking over my shoulder, giving me slaps when I'm not on point. So what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Got guys, someone in Arkansas. What's up, man? My friend Bronson is from Arkansas. He's now living on Maui, but or was he from Alabama? Shoot, I don't know. It was an A down the south, and great place to be. So glad you guys are down there, Arkansas. Got Australia in the house, New York. What's up, Cheryl from Idaho? Nice emojis. Yes, it's Halloween. Getting stoked. Stoked to dress up as farmers. And what'd you do for Halloween? Well, I went around and I sprayed everyone's garden, and I gave them a treat instead of a trick, right? Hey, and yeah, what's up, Stonemason? Thanks for the donation. I know you donated to the foundation, and our foundation website is down right now. Just so you know, don't use Host Papa. They're not the most friendly host. So I'm converting it over to DigitalOcean, and so that'll be back up in a little bit. Oh, but yeah, running not only this, but technical advice for the foundation that we run. Had a board meeting yesterday, getting things set up for the convention coming up, and all the committees who are doing micro documentaries and food canoes. I guess we renamed it to canoes. It's a food sovereignty project here, and what else? All kinds of good things happening for the foundation. And the certification committee Yeah, trying to get the directory together. So anyway, question here from Bluegrass Green Thumb. He's asking about calcium phosphate versus calcium phosphate. They're both the same. Those are the same acronyms. So if you're talking about KNF structure, as far as nutrient cycle is concerned, it's used all the time. It's used in the maintenance solution. And the reason it's used all the time is because KNF structure helps the roots grow, which is the main part of the structure of the plant, but it also helps it as it's growing out to hold itself up above ground. So it's like the bones, right? So, and the acronym typically is WCP for it. If you were to go with the old school confusion techniques, but just calling it KNF structure, you know where it's at. So in terms of nutrient theory, it's there. And so if you're asking about phosphoric acid versus calcium phosphate, yeah, but the rest of your acronyms are not correct. The old school one where you're looking at calcium or just phosphate, water soluble phosphorus, it is. Let me just pull up the excuse me. Let me pull up the old school thing on it because it's not part of the 9 core solutions, but it is a solution that Master Cho has talked about. So let me see here. I'm going to pull this up and get it nice and big here and then switch this over so that it will be this one and switch it. So let's see here. So I'm going to go up to the top, look at the index here, and he mentions water-soluble phosphoric acid here. It's number 9. So let me pull down there. Number 9, 7, 8, 9. And slide it over just there. See it. And make it bigger. Okay. So there you go. So this is phosphoric acid, and I'll just go to the source material for it because you asked me this, and it's like, well, what's the difference? And it's not part of the 9. This one's not part of the 9 core solutions because it isn't. It's more like, I don't want to say it's more advanced or anything, but it's just not as vital for the core of the plant. And to make it simple, I have 9 solutions that you use. And then, of course, you can go and use other things. And Master Cho does talk about more things, but they're just not as like basic and fundamental. So if you're just beginning or you're really not sure what you're doing, you probably shouldn't be, add these in as you start to gain confidence and you start to observe the effects of the 9 core solutions. So it says the function of phosphoric acid, which is WPA under his system. It says phosphoric acid is an important element for the life of crops because the acid is contained in every plant. Every plant's doing acid. Phosphoric acid is a substance that composes the cell nucleus. That's awesome. Absorbed phosphoric acid is used for increasing cells when it moves to vigorous bud and root tip or seed fruit. So, when you taste a fruit and it's unripe, there's a lot of phosphoric acid in it. That's why when we make a KNF food for the flowering and the puberty stage, it's made from unripe fruit, which has a lot more phosphoric acid in it. So it increases those. So that in the 9 core solutions, there's KNF food made from unripe fruits or flowers, which contain a lot more phosphoric acid. So, but you can use this here by itself. Okay. And the stem of sesame, which is what it's made from, contains a large amount of phosphoric acid. And this is used in natural farming. Burn the sesame stems into charcoal and percolate the charcoal to extract phosphoric acid, which basically means, put it in water, right? So it doesn't mean that you have to dissolve this in vinegar. It means just water. Burn the charcoal and then percolate it in water, meaning like percolate, just like I make coffee in the morning, grind it up, percolate the water through. That's what it's talking about. So phytic acid, a storage form of phosphoric acid, is a major substance in the seed. Phosphoric acid is involved in photophosphorylation. Ugh, I hate these long words. So I don't hate them, but they're hard to pronounce. Photophosphorylation and electron transport in photosynthesis. Also, phosphoric acid acts to transport anabolites and protein synthesis. So all these things are important, and that's why using, if you're using a KNF food made from these plants, you'll have this in here already. When you're adding it directly, like I'm just adding this phosphoric acid and I add it at the wrong time, that's when it could mess things up. And that's why, you'll have this phosphoric acid and all this stuff in your good KNF food. So, but here's the symptoms of a deficiency, right? So when should I use it? When should I not? A deficiency, it says phosphoric acid can easily travel within the plant and move to new vigorous leaves first. As a result, symptoms of deficiency mainly appear on the petiole and veins of an old leaf. So if you're seeing the old leaf starting to die off and it's transporting it to the new leaves, and that's when you know, okay, this isn't good. And this is oftentimes you'll see this in bananas. Okay, so I know not everyone grows bananas, but I do grow a lot of bananas here. It's primarily one of the main crops I grow. And if your plant is undernutritioned and apparently lacking enough phosphorus, what happens is the old leaves start to die off as the plant starts to throw a fruit rack. And as that fruit's going, the old leaves start to die off, and you just have like and they all die off. And sometimes you'll have every single leaf die off and then your fruit rack there. And that's a sign of severe lack of phosphorus. And it's moving all that into the banana. So that's an extreme case that you'll see. And it says here also, second symptom is the new leaf does not grow well and it becomes smaller and dark green in color. And that, so stunted growth and real dark green growth. Third symptom is the flowers are noticeably suppressed, naturally bearing fewer fruits. So if your plant's not flowering very well, it's another sign. And this there's a lot of people that grow special flowers here that you can't talk about on YouTube. So this may help your flower set and your flower stage come in as well. So after you've gotten your 9-course solutions down, you've really done a few runs that way, consider adding this in at the right times. And it says, fourth symptom is usually the symptoms are dormant within the body and therefore it's difficult to recover, even considering the ability to cope with the disease when the symptoms appear on the exterior. I don't really know what that means. That's kind of cryptic, kind of Kringlish. Who knows? And then fifth symptom is the fruit skin becomes thick and the acid content increases. So if you have really thick skin, then you don't have enough phosphoric acid. You can make the skin thinner, which again, if you're using a KNF food from ripe fruits in the transition period, and you're using a KNF food made from ripe fruit during the fruiting period, this also shouldn't be a thing for you because you should naturally have enough phosphoric acid. But however, I know people want to make more and go more advanced, even though it's really about mastering the basics. And I'm not going to try to withhold information. I'm just trying to say, master the basics first before you try to go into anything else. That's always what I say. And it's about natural farming is about bringing balance versus juicing things and adding this and that. And it's about bringing balance and letting the plant naturally express itself. So those are my caveats before I go in how to make it, because I know you're interested in how to make it. And first off, you need a clay jar or a Japanese cedar bucket. Okay. So make sure you got those first. No, any 5-gallon bucket or any glass jar, whatever you got around, man. But Master Cho always talks about the clay jar because it's superior, right? In a lot of ways of having breathability and all these other things. And then second thing you must have is porous paper. Korean paper or a paper towel and a rubber band. So something to cover it. T-shirt will work too. Doesn't have to be paper. And materials. So the materials you need are charcoal from sesame stems. So take sesame stems and char them. Don't burn them to ash, but just char them, best in like a retort or some sort of thing where you can suck the air out. Look those up. Biochar reactor type of thing. And water. So make sure you got, pure spring water. No, whatever water works. If it's chlorinated, leave it out. Try not to use, heavily treated water if you can. Collect rainwater, whatever. And then the optimal temperature range is from 23 to 25 Celsius. Of course, you got to do it exactly in that. No, but that means do it kind of, I think it's a little warmer than usual. What is 25 C? Who knows? And then I always think in Fahrenheit, right? And it's good to select a cool shaded place with no direct sunlight. So, and then the method is just soak that stuff in there. It doesn't say, or it does say here. So let me go over here. So, and it says, it is desirable there is little change in the exterior surroundings. So it means don't have a lot of temperature fluctuation. Maybe do this in a cooler type of thing. And the method is to make the charcoal, burn the sesame stems on a fire when large flames appear, put 1 to 2 kilos of sesame stem charcoal in a hemp cloth bag, very important, hemp cloth bag, and dip it into 100 liters of water in order to dissolve the phosphoric acid in water, which is the crude liquid of natural phosphoric acid. And it takes 7 days, although the time varies on the temperature and the surroundings. So teabag that thing in there for 7 days into the water, shake it around just like get it in there 7 days, maybe 10 days to be safe. Depends on temperature. I don't know what he means, whether it goes up or down, but it means keep it as constant as possible at 23 to 25 C. And then dilute 0.7 liters of the crude phosphoric acid that you just made with 20 liters of water when phosphoric acid is used alone. Okay, so dilute it and just 0.7 liters of that 100 liters you made into 20 liters, which, what is it? I don't know. Someone that wants to do math on the fly can do that. Or dilute phosphoric acid with water at the ratio of 1 to 1,000 when it's used together with water and water-soluble calcium. Okay, so your 1 to 1,000 ratio there. Then your utilization of it. Apply it during the crossover period, so that puberty period between vegetation and fruiting, when things are flowering, that puberty period. It helps to promote the differentiation of flower buds and resulting in high fertility and yield. So again, you guys that grow the flowers that we can't talk about, that's the time to use it. And it helps to improve the sugar content of fruits. And also another time to apply it is when the color leaves are dark green or when the leaves are light green. So if they're not the color green you're looking for, use this, right? So there's probably better guides on when to use it and how to do it. But anyway, just want to show you guys this here of how to make water-soluble or phosphoric acid, which is just sesame seeds or sesame stems teabagged into water, charred sesame stems teabagged in water, and using it. And of course, this old book has all kinds of good information, and happy to share it with you here on the office hour for educational purposes to get you guys so you're tuned in. So there's a question here from Cecily. She's asking, can you use charcoal bone meal? Fresh bones here are very expensive. Possibly you could if you could char them without burning them to ash, put them in some sort of retort and suck the oxygen out, do an oxidization process. Possibly. That'd be cool. I don't know. I've never used bone char. I just get bones. I go to the slaughterhouse and I just ask them, hey, you got any bones? Go to pig hunters, ask them, hey, you got any bones? I kill my own animals and I use their bones. So it's a good thing. Use a lot of it here. Okay, and then what nutrients am I supposed to spray on my vanilla beans to get big, long beans? I use water-soluble calcium phosphorus, also known as KNF Structure, before flowering, and I got lots of flowers. So if you are curious about what nutrients and those things to be using, it's in the book. And if you're asking a question about what to use when, it is like, here's your, I'll pull this up here and just transition this over, make it slightly larger. And here's the 7 different prescriptions you have here. So that's 7 different prescriptions. There's a maintenance formula used all the time, soil formula used for soil preparation, seed formula used for when things are your seed soaking or transplant soaking. There's a leaf formula used when and then the leaf, bloom, and fruit formula are all used in a cycle that oscillates. Okay, so it's not like leaf, bloom, fruit. It's not like these are sequential. These first 3 are sequential, or this one's used all the time. Then these 2 are sequential. Then these 3 are not. They're used in a cycle. And then this harvest formula is used again at the end sequentially. So let's go over that into, here's what they are. But if you want to look at that in more detail, either pause it or get the book at knfsupport.com. But let's go down to this slide here, which shows that if you're asking about your vanilla beans and you want nice, big, long beans, basically you start here with the soil, seed, then it goes into where you're starting to plant. After you've sowed your seeds, you're going to go a leaf, fruit, then a bloom, leaf, fruit, harvest, soil formula. Okay, so this is just a generic once over thing of nutrient cycle. But basically, if you're asking how do I get big beans, the key is to balance the nutrients and get them so that it can express its natural potential. The difference is that on this side of it going leaf, fruit, that these here are made from growth tips. So the leaf formula here and what you're going to use is made from growing tips. Then on this side where you're making your leaf, fruit, you're going to make these from ripe fruits. So the foods you're going to feed them change. And when you change that, it changes the NPK values. And that over here, when you're going here, you're putting these ripe fruits on. And that is how to change what you're doing. When you go through, there's a chubby, skinny that you'll see if you observe a plant over a long period of time. And so the first third of the life, you're using growth tips in your foods. The last 1/3, you're using ripe fruits over here. And so if you start to apply ripe fruits as your beans you've flowered now and you're starting to come into where your beans are forming, you're going to want to make sure that you're using plants and fruits that are good for growing nice fruits. So anyway, that's how to do that in the standard way. It's in the book. So although I feel like I'm wasn't the clearest explanation. Every time I talk about nutrient cycle, it's like, rah. But that's how, and if you're curious and you don't like my explanation, you can go to the channel and go see Master Cho talk about it for hours on end. Most of the seminars I have of Master Cho, he'll go over that and talk about it. Someone will ask him a question and you can hear directly from him what he says. I always think that it's important to bring you original OG sources. Yeah, cool. 71 DP0 is making JMS from scrap potatoes from work. That's awesome. Yep, and so those symptoms that you're seeing, calphos, when I was talking about phosphoric acid, those same symptoms, you can use calphosphor, and you'll get calcium plus phosphate and you don't necessarily need the phosphoric acid from the sesame stems. It's just another thing to, like, you know, have another tool in your tool bag, right? It's not like your hammer and your saw. It's like a special beam saw that you use, right? You can cut things even better, crisper, cleaner, but you're not going to use it all the time, and it costs more to make and all those things. So time, energy, and all those things. Okay, so the question, Bluegrass, who asked the original Cal-Phos KNF structure versus the phosphoric acid, is why would you use one over the other? Calcium phosphate, if you're using it, it's in there all the time in the maintenance. It's the common denominator of every KNF solution that is in that Master Cho talks about. And why would you use one more than the other? Is that phosphoric acid, you'll get just the phosphoric acid and it probably is a little bit more potent. Now, the whole key is to be balanced and not to imbalance your plants, because if you think, oh, this is good, and you add a lot, it actually imbalances everything else. So it's to bring it into balance. So here at my farm, I don't use that, but you could, and you could balance it out. So, yeah. So deer bones are good to use for KNF structure for sure. Any land-based animal that's weight-bearing, so not birds, are great to use. Even fish bones, which you can get a lot of. So what can you do with leftover cooked crab bodies is dissolve those in vinegar and make chitin. I believe this book also talks about chitin a bit. Let me see here. But if not, I did also go study chitin directly. Yeah, it's in the calcium section. It's number 7 here. Let me see. He does talk a little bit about chitin. Yeah, so here at the very bottom here, yes, here, he does talk about chitosan. And material is crab shells, shrimp shells, and brown rice vinegar. How to make it, the ratio of shrimp shell or crab shell to BRV is 1 to 10. 1 to 10. It's necessary to roast the shells. The method is the same as that of making the water-soluble calcium, also known as KNF reproduction. It takes more time to roast crab shells than to roast eggshells, and roasting emits a pungent scent. So do it outside, obviously. When the process is completed, the smell is gone and the color becomes lighter than the original as the eggshell does. My eggshells always get dark or brown. But anyway, how to use: dilute with water 1 to 1,000 and mix with other natural farming materials during the whole period of cultivation. So apparently you can use chitin the entire time you are growing things, which makes sense. Chitin is really useful. It makes the cells like elastic. And, I did go to Korea and study just using chitin as a natural farming solution. And they were pretty darn effective. They were also using a lot of synthetic other chemicals, which was awesome. But the chitin kept the pests away. And they were using, chitanase, which is an enzyme that will digest the shells of bugs. So they were actually using chitanase. So anyway, interesting, good things there. So leftover crabs turn into chitanase, whatever you're going to do. Thank you, Jennifer. Super chat. You're amazing. Thank you. You're amazing. All right. And let's see here. Okay. Planting a mix of 30 trees, bushes, perennial flowers, perennial veggies soon. Do you have a video or advice on what to do when planting those trees? I don't have IMO, but I have the rest of the KNF inputs. Yep. So if you're able to quickly make a disgustingly cheap microbe solution, then you can get the IMOs quickly and easily, which is this recipe right here again, this is in the book, knfsupport.com. But make the water add in some microbes, add in some starch, add in some salt, and let that ferment. And the time goes about 24 hours, between 24 and 36 hours, you'll have a peak of good microbes. And then if you wait longer, the microbes will go down and the junk microbes will come up and the smell will change. And so you just dump this on your area before you plant, if you can. Okay, and you said you have this already, which I just should have read your next comment. So use these things, put the biochar, soak it, do all those things, get them together. And my planting advice, again, like I said last week, on this is instead of digging a hole, because everyone wants to dig a hole and really anchor it in the ground, but instead we were talking about this last week, which is don't dig a hole like this. There's this X over it. I can't remove that, but don't dig a hole down like this. Instead, dig a hole that is about 12 inches on the side and 6 inches in the center. So a pyramid type shape. And cut the taproot, cut a third of your taproot off, put it right on here and spread the roots out. Take all the soil off what you're doing. Spread the roots out here and put it in the ground this way. And before you transplant it, deny it water. Depends on what it is, but typically if it's a tree, don't water it for 3 days before you transplant it. And then right before you transplant it into the ground, take your tree and soak it in the seed soak solution. And bare root it and soak it in there, and it will absorb because it's thirsty, it'll absorb all that seed soak solution into it. It'll power it up. And then you plant it in the ground like this. And of course, you put JMS and all your stuff around. Then your plant will tune into those microbes, and the roots are going out. So you spread them out. So they're going out to the side, and they will reach out. And then here is where you put your mulch, your IMOs, your biochar, all that stuff right on top, right under the leaf zone. So right here in this zone, put all your mulch and stuff, and that will help it to grow out and to keep the soil soft and to build this whole microorganism colony. And it'll stress out your plant a little bit, but it will really make your plant thrive this way. It's kind of a hard knock life. Get started, go out, versus in this scenario where you've dug a deep hole and you put your plant in, the roots will just spin around and around and around. And your fertilizer typically is put into the hole down here, and that stuff just rots and causes root rot and spins and causes a weak ass plant. Versus here where you put your fertilizer, or what, and by fertilizer I mean whatever amendments, you put them up here on the top. And then when it rains or water it, all those amendments go down into the root zone versus being down at the bottom where the roots aren't even able to access them, right? So this is the advice from Master Cho, from me, for planting. It works really well. Give it a try. And that is, that's that. So, yeah, and then Crab Grows is saying, Crab Grows, that's kind of funny. You're asking about chitin and your name's Crab Grows. Speaking of chitin, is chitin the same in the shell, the same chitin in mycelium? I believe chitin is chitin is chitin. Let me see. I mean, I'm going to ask the internet. But chitin, yes, chitin is chitin because chitin is actually C8H13O5N to the N. I don't know what to the N means. Never seen that before. But it's a imide derivative of glucose. And it's probably the second most abundant polysaccharide in nature, only behind cellulose. So chitin itself is almost a sugar. It's a primary component in the cell wall of fungi, and probably fungals too. I don't know. The exoskeletons, arthropods, all these things, cephalopods, all these things. So that's why Master Cho is saying to use it all the time, because chitin is a long chain polymer of N-acetylglucosamine. So anyway, and it looks, if I slide this over, it looks like this. This is a chemical formula, real nice complex chitin molecule there, but very, very vital, right? And, in insects, insect frass and all that. And chitin means covering from Greek, right? Chitin means covering. So it's going to give you this protective shell, this armor, everything for your plant. So that's what chitin is. Very important. Use it all the time. Also GTS, man. No. Okay. Excess phosphorus has wide antagonistic effects. Yeah, so thanks, Partida. She's talking about how if you use excess phosphorus, so if you're using too much phosphoric acid, it ties up zinc, copper, iron, calcium, phosphorus, or potassium, all these things. So if you use too much of it, the phosphoric acid, which is why it's not included in the 9 core solutions, because it's not a core part. You use too much, you imbalance everything else. It's like, it's one of those specialized things that you use, right? You better know how to use it before you use it, because Partida is a genius here. I don't know what she's up to, but she was talking to me. I actually did want to delve into that. I know I'm getting out on this here, but she left a YouTube comment on my thread here. Let's see, is it this one? Where, let's see, how do I get to this comment? Each time I go to this and then it's not there. But let me see if I go to this. Let me see here. I want to pause this because I wanted to go to her comment here and just show you this, because this was like one of the coolest comments I've gotten in a while here. And transition this over and make this slightly larger. But she was saying, I'm not sure about the definition of microbes, since this appears to be determined by the redox potential / homeostasis. Example, the loss or gain of across pH or even EH-pH is the driver of soil microbe-plant interactions. This being pretty much widely agreed in science. Today, the label pathogen seems a little outdated, not to make this a woke matter. Yeah, keep the wokeness out of here. We're all slept, okay? No. For example, there's evidence that pathogens can be seen as beneficial depending on the circumstances of existence. And indeed, facultative microbes flip-flop depending on its position in the redox pH graph, right? So reducing oxygen, kind of like this fire thing happening. That's what redox is, pH graph. So as they're breaking down oxygen, turning it into energy and all these things, a thing could be pathogenic, but in certain instances, it's actually beneficial for you. So the whole thing of saying, bad pathogens are bad, it's not even true here. And that's what she's saying. It's like, it's hard. The line of where good and bad is always fluctuating. And that's, if you look at one of my things on microbes, I talk a lot about that, right? So there's some studies showing how wilt is coerced into a beneficial... Reba be calling me. I can't handle that right this second. Trying to coordinate the union. I should actually answer that and just say, hey, I gotta call you back. Oh, but anyway, I'm gonna message her. Hang on one sec. Call you at 10. Okay. Because I need to talk to her about this stuff, and she's calling me on the weekend, which is great. I appreciate it. I appreciate her time, energy, and everything. So anyway, back to this. Wilt is beneficial to the presence of diverse endophytes that are able to repeatedly stab the body of the wilt, so that it's unable to boot up its pathogenic system of interaction because it no longer contains sufficient energy, and it is in fact left deep in the rhizosphere. So they're saying that wilt, like which kills things, is actually beneficial because it opens up the pore space for these microbes to penetrate and get into your roots. And without that happening, these other things wouldn't penetrate. So actually, as bad wilt, under the right conditions, in balance, is actually beneficial in a small amount to let microbes into your roots. So those leaking nutrients through the many perforations of peptides secreted by the Bacillus subtilis, for example. So as those things get in there, then they leak out nutrients, which helps the microbiome actually develop. The leaking matter of the wilt becomes energy enhancing substrate for the wider beneficial system of the plant with its symbiotic endophytes. How cool is that, right? So this pathogen that's killing my plant through wilt is actually beneficial and benefiting the whole system. So the discussion about JADAM and KNF, which by the way, JADAM is KNF. It's all Korean natural farming. JADAM is just a subset of recipes. Seems more of egos than it is defined, proven on both sides, right? And young Sang Cho has his ego, wants to outdo his father, wants to be like, I'm the best. It's not really the best. JADAM declares they have organic validity. If this matters more than anything, being a hop of distraction and backdoor taxation, right? Yeah, exactly. I agree with you there. No one can argue with the gardens of Youngsang nor Master Cho, which is true. These guys put the proof in the pudding or the proof in the produce. The transformation of soil through the application of JMS, which is the disgustingly cheap microbes, seems a little dispute for sure, as it appears to make a big difference in the soil profile depth when given sufficient application along with sufficient water to force the solution deep, which means it works, right? It does. The redox force between open ground and compacted soil is what ultimately seems to doom many plants. So it's exactly what I was talking about in the previous slide when I was showing you how to plant a plant. What dooms most plants is they get down into an anaerobic non-oxygen zone, and then they lose the ability to reduce oxygen, and they end up dying and they get these weird things. So going from highly oxidized to highly reduced has obvious risks for humans too. Hence why we get injuries and secondary infections from treatments in some cases. Awesome. Yeah, if you get denied oxygen, you're going to die and get sick real quick. The lack of reduction supporting biology in the surface of tilled soils, or those spaces that have been chemically or mechanically oxidized, appears to be the barrier to health once the root strikes hard ground. So it's healthy while it's growing in your tilled soil, but as soon as it hits that hard stuff, the plant starts dying. Ergo, adding some fact back, I don't know what that means, seems a reasoned idea, where one swings hidden underfoot and dramatically between oxidization and reduction. One ought to expect a visible acknowledgement from above the ground. Trying to avoid flat or try not to add or flat avoid pathogenic risk is often outside of our control. Only God could live without experience redox limitations. So first off, just want to thank you, Partida, for that comment. That just blew my mind when I read it. I'm just like, yes, it's how I, as a teacher, become a student and learn and just get these larger perspectives given to me. And it's so great here of understanding these things. So, yeah. Okay. So here, getting back to these comments. Thank you for that. And I just want to thank you. Anytime you comment, I do read majority of the comments out there. Some people say I read all the comments. I'm like, there's no way you read all the comments. But I do try to read this. Yeah, an insect frasque. Coming back to these comments, the live bits here. And Ikhlas Ahmed is asking, please tell me one more thing, how we can scale up the JADAM techniques or larger fields, 100 to 200 acres. Get big tanks, follow the same recipe. Just scale it up, right? Enough starch, enough salt. You can use seawater and enough soil in there. Just scale it up and you'll be good to go. You can make huge tanks of it, but make sure that you're diluting it before you're adding it, right? So you don't need to make huge amounts of JMS, but then you need to dilute it enough and then put it into your sprinkler system and then run your, whatever you're going to irrigate with, and then flush that after and run some lactobacillus, the KNF protectors in there, and clean it out, right? So all those things, it scales really well, okay? Yeah, so good, getting up to this. And can JADAM, sulfur, solve, potato, late blight. If you're getting late blight in your potatoes, I never recommend JADAM sulfur. People use it. Even some people use it for all kinds of things and it works, but I never recommend it because A, it makes your stuff taste like sulfur, and B, it's not worth it. I mean, you're better off to fix your soil and balance that. So, but go ahead, try it. I don't know. I never recommend using JADAM sulfur, even though he's like, this is the number one thing to solve everything. I'm like, no, actually good soil, good farming practices is. So I always push that aspect of it. So fish aminos is 2% nitrogen, 1P, 1K. I think numbers above that typically use non-organic extraction. Yeah, it's all in balance, right? And fish aminos is all in balance. So, okay. Yeah, and you guys are talking about the phosphoric acid and how all those things tie in. That's good. Check out Partida stuff. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the JMS and all that. Okay. JS solve potato late blight. It may be. It may do it, but I would never recommend JADAM sulfur. Okay. I just no. You can use it, go do it, but don't get your advice from me because I'm never gonna recommend you use that. Oh, and FacBac is facultative bacteria. So I guess that would be something like lactobacillus, right? Facultatively anaerobic. So FacBac is a facultative anaerobic. Yeah, so yeah, and the biggest headache on large scale is making enough wetting agent. So if you're potassium, what method JADAM uses for potassium? JADAM is a very crude technique. So if you're looking for more better techniques, get into Master Cho's Korean natural farming recipes and let go of the sun, because if you're going to think of potassium or whatever and getting those nutrients, you're actually getting so much anaerobes. It's basically a stepping stone to get you from complete poverty to where you can afford to do real natural farming. So if you're looking for solutions for specific things at JADAM, you're probably barking up the wrong tree. It's just not that sophisticated, and Master Cho's understanding is Young Song Cho's understanding is just not as there in terms of making these things. He'll just say rot it and it's good. So if I make one of the solutions, okay. So if you're talking about, so Thomas is talking about taking solutions here, like for instance, you take, let's go to the solutions page up here, there. So if you're saying, Thomas, if you take one of these, like say I make the leaf formula here, and I put in food, cleanser, medicine, structure, fuel, and protectors, and I let it sit for about 12 hours, it's going to be better. Yeah, because all of these things are going to activate. In the food, there's microbes and there's enzymes, and in the cleanser, there's microbes, enzymes, all these things, there's microbes, and as you let it sit for a few hours, these things start to activate. So if you just dilute and spray right now, you get benefit because all these things have benefit, but the longer you let them, not the longer, if you let them kind of sit and then for about 12 hours max, they start to synthesize with each other, and they start to actually, the protectors will activate the fuel, all these things. They're living. Even though I consider them mostly dead, they're living and they will activate. So if you let these things sit and after diluting them before you spray, let them sit for 6 to 12 hours. So if you're going to spray in the afternoon, you mix it in the morning, you let it sit all day, you'll get more beneficial, what do I want to say? I don't know. It's a sin word. Starts with sin, but it's not sin itself. And okay, so with all that, caught up with that. You guys, good, patient, awesome, really highly intelligent people here. Really appreciate you guys. Synergy, that's the word I was looking for. Synergy. Yeah, you get that. And so highly intelligent people here, people that can think faster than I can even. Sometimes I'm like, oh. But what I did want to get to today, the last 10 minutes or so here, and if you're interested in using human poop, check out the office hours from a couple of weeks ago. I talked about it, so you're going to have to go, the table of contents aren't done yet, but you'll have to go look because I did talk about that. And it's excellent and used properly. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the soil environment recovery, and we kind of got into this last week, but I wanted to continue on this presentation because you guys have stayed here this long. Why not give you a gem, right? And coming back to Master Cho. So this dude, amazing, Master Cho, such an amazing dude, truly a master. So great that I got to meet him in my lifetime. Master of alchemy, master of understanding nature. And we got into this last time talking about how the microbes and everything work together. And I think this is what Partida was talking about, you know, even if there's a wilt in there, then the roots get powered up and all these things. And just how all these systems come together and how it turns solar radiation into growth and powers this whole system up. And that's what happens in the earth. So he basically has 3 solutions for creating fertility. If you're going and you want to go soil environment recovery, which means how do I get my soil to recover? He has these 3 things, right? What do I do? Well, put indigenous microorganisms out there, right? So follow the process. Put indigenous, make IMO 1, capture them, the seed IMO, preserve in sugar, propagate it, then activate it with your soil and put it out there. Number 2, seawater. Super cheap if you live near the ocean. And also you can get C90 or sea solids, dilute them and use them. And the third is using your wild grass. Your wild grass is what wants to heal your soil. As you start to use IMO and seawater, it will start to dig deeper. And grasslands, the grasslands of America are what made America so fertile for so many years until we completely, pretty much destroyed it these days. But the depth of getting perennial grasses in there where they just grow deep and grazing and getting it in there. How do you recover your soil? Put IMOs, put seawater, and let the grass grow and just let it happen, right? Keep that going and your soil will recover. This is like, how simple could this be, right? It's not like it's some complex recipe. They got to buy some stuff. No, just follow these. They're pretty much free. I mean, the IMOs cost a lot and a lot of time and energy and all that, but that aside, you made them, put them out there. And if you don't do that, just use JMS, right? Make it easy. But then he's going into this of talking about, no pesticides. So cut that out. No herbicide. Cut that out. No tilling. Cut that out. Oh, right there. You just saved $1,000 frickin' dollars more than that. You saved mucho dinero, which I know the Spanish people will be like, that's not how you say it. And no chemical fertilizer, right? Get rid of all those things. And now you save so much money and instead start composting and or compost in situ with those first 3 things I was talking about. IMOs, seawaters, and grass, right? It's going to compost for you. What's going to happen is as the air, the grass gets in there, it creates airspace, the microbes come out, and there's all this Korean stuff in here that I cannot read, but I'm sure it's amazing explaining what these things are. But basically what happens is this is showing how when you stop these things, what happens is the fungus here starts to take soil and the bacterias on the soil start to form aggregates, and then the fungus rolls these into bigger balls here and then wraps those things up in larger balls, and the fungus starts to roll your soil. So the bacteria makes small balls, then the fungus makes bigger balls, and then it makes bigger aggregates, and now air is penetrating, water, sunlight. No, sunlight's probably not penetrating that much, but the energy starts to come in, the air starts to come in, it starts to revitalize your soil, and going from dead particulate with no oxygen getting in there, which Partida was just talking about how the hardest zone is where there's no oxygen. it brings oxygen down into your soil. Now plant growth happens. No disease is happening. It's all based on this amazing comment, which plays so well in today of what we're talking about the oxygen coming in, all this airspace. This is what happens when you stop using these things and you let this natural cycle going. Okay. Then this is what happens when you do use these things. Pesticide, herbicide, tilling, chemical fertilizer. You destroy your soil texture. It all turns into these small powdered things that nothing can get down in there. Emoji or Imugi, send an email to drake@pureknf.org and then let's correspond, because I can send you material and maybe you can help translate it and get it together. But this is what happens when you use chemical fertilizer. Boom, all your aggregates gone, compressed, no water, no oxygen, no air, nothing gets down there. It just gets compressed. How the heck is your plant going to thrive? It's not. It's going to die. It's choking. It's dead. And this is what happens. So, and then here in a bad rhizospheric environment, which is exactly what we were just talking about today, there's excess types of molecules that you don't need. There's nematodes in there because they're in the bad ones that are eating your roots and things. Your aggregation is small, and your rhizospheric, your plant can't reach out. Look how small it's reaching out. And this is like a very bad rhizospheric environment, right? But in a good rhizosphere, assuming you get great, and small leaves, but in a good one, look, the fruits are bigger, the leaves are bigger, the roots are bigger, earthworms are coming through, there's expansion, there's earthworms, there's mycorrhiza, there's nice aggregation where these things are forming, there's good nematodes coming through, there's the minerals, the fungus is able to transport the right stuff to the right place and bring it around. And this, the more you get your soil together, the more your plant can naturally thrive. So just looking at just the soil, you get the plant to, you get your soil together. Now your plant is doing better, right? Wow. Wasn't that hard. And how'd you do that? IMO, seawater, grass, right? And then get these things together. So how do you do the IMO? Well, collect it from the bamboo. You get your nice IMOs that are happening. You see where this is happening, this nice IMOs, you grab those, dig into it. Here's nice IMOs happening naturally out there. Dig into it, get down to the soil. Look how nice that soil is underneath. Then take your box, put your box out there, your La Holla basket. That's nice, he's using La Holla, made it into his slides. And bury it down into there. Get the microbes to transfer into your rice. Once the microbes are transferred into your rice, then you can bring them back and put these, build them up, propagate them, activate them, and then put them back out, right? Yeah, and so just because JMS is quicker, but the idea of applying more IMO, as we have had superior or super results with the smaller IMO tests, don't. Yeah, and it's hard to scale IMO up to a huge scale, but you can make liquid IMO after you've made it. But you understand what's happening with the IMOs and why this is all happening. I mean, it's here, you can see it. Like these are going, but yeah, liquid IMO and all those things. It's hard to scale IMOs up. And the sea salt does provide a lot of micronutrients. The key is to dilute it, right? Sea salt is diluted 1 to 1,000 with water, and seawater is diluted 1 to 30. So, but there's also microbes on your leaves. And this is a lot of times, if you don't have microbes on your leaves, like for instance, look at this. This is the microbes of a diseased leaf. So chemical matters land on the leaf, destroy the microbes, decrease photosynthesis and resistance. If your leaf is bare like this and there's nothing protecting it, any pathogen that lands on here, oh, I can move that around. Interesting. Any pathogen that lands on here is going to get, immediately disease, right? So you got to get these good microbes all throughout your leaf texture. So spraying the IMOs directly on the leaves, and just making sure that you do seed soak solutions. So when these emerge, there are microbes and it grows with them the whole time and everything like that. So get microbes up on your leaves, make them healthy this way. You can see this difference. And then the last bit of this is that oftentimes people think they got to till, right? And they got to loosen the soil for this. This is showing a tree splitting a rock and growing straight through a rock. So when you think that you need to baby your plants and till and make all this stuff, just remember that paper beats rock, right? You remember that? Here's the rock, paper beats rock, right? Oh, yep. Only scissors beats paper, right? But paper beats rock, okay? You guys rock, paper, scissors, right? Paper, trees beat rock, right? This is a classic, known thing that's hidden in our little rock, paper, scissors game. The tree is stronger than the rock, right? But the rock's going to break your scissors. Watch out, man. Don't be hitting your cutting tools into this rock. Instead, use a tree to break your rock. You want to break a rock? Use a tree, right? And so this is the power of nature, going, growing, doing its thing. So just instead of tilling, thinking you got to soften, again, go with these ideas of where instead of tilling, you use microbes. And again, the three things: indigenous microbes, seawater, grass, which again is paper, right? Trees, these things, they will restore your soil, restore everything, and you will get soil environment recovery. Thank you, Master Cho. This is an amazing little short segment of goodness, of understanding these things. And when you see it at this level, when you get to see the soil aggregates versus this, and then you understand that previous talk of the redox potential and all this, how it can't get out there. And when you get this system cranking, it grows. So this is the key. So anyway, that's the end of this little bit of segment. And we'll continue with this presentation next time at the end after I get to your questions and all that. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I think there's a little bit more questions here. Can you also make lye using wood ash and rainwater to remove the sodium chloride? Yes. It is possible to make lye from wood ash. And then, you can make potassium nitrate by adding urine to that. And then that's a high explosive. So if you ever need explosives, you got that. So soak wood ash in water and then add urine to it, and it makes potassium nitrate, which is real fun to play with. Just saying. But anyway, you can tell by the beard where I align, right? But you got to know these things, right? So thank you guys for tuning in. Any more information you want to share with me, email me. We got one last thing I wanted to share today, and that is Justin Halflich emailed me this, and he's doing some IMOs. He did an IMO 3 pile, a 350-pound pile, and he kept it between 100 and 115. It smells good. Starting to dry out on day 6, and just want to share a little bit of this photo with you. This is him doing it here, and he did it up on this plywood that he sprayed with some cooking oil or something so it didn't stick. But this is a way, because he couldn't do it on his gravel floor here, but he did it up on this, and it looks great. Amazing, good stuff happening here. And then here's his IMO close-up kind of growing out, just, growing tons of microbes in this thing. And with good IMO, this is towards the end of the cycle, so it's starting to dry out and all that. So anyway, last little bit of share. If you do want to share things with me, always appreciate that. And as always, thanks for tuning in. Continue to do natural farming. Continue to spread it. Even though I have very little hope that we're going to change the world at this point, it's worth it. It's worth a try, as they de-energize us and as they take down systems. And I was watching a video. Let me show you. I was watching. Is it worth it? I should probably just end this thing. End up just ranting for hours. But I was watching this video right here. Let me pull it over. Bring it over to the shared side. I was watching this video here and this guy here. If you want to see something, kind of look up this guy. You want to see how scary it is in the transition of going to green energy and all that. And just this guy here, Simon Michaux, material blindness. You want to check something crazy out and have this guy, he's talking about how there's no way we can switch to this green economy and this sustainable thing. The only answer we really have is natural farming. It's de-energized. Use what's around you, do what you do, because there's no way we're going to be able to generate the same terawatts of energy and get everyone an electric car. There's not enough copper, not enough cobalt, not enough molybdenum. And this dude is super smart. So check out his presentation here. This one's under the Great Simplification, but just search Simon Michaux on the internet and with your least favorite search engine, and you'll find his stuff because he is nuts in terms of this. So, but if you want a good understanding and understand why natural farming is so important, and it's so important that you teach your friends and family this, because as energy dries up in the next 10, 15, 20 years, if you don't have this tech, you're going to be turned into water-soluble calcium phosphate by someone who does. Right? So anyway, love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. See you next week in November. And hopefully everything goes well and they don't just pull the plug on us immediately. Thank you. And long live the natural farmer. Love you guys. Aloha. Bye now.